Welcome to the live stream, guys. We have a Black Friday week basically going on of live streaming activities. So I'll be here hosting this entire thing. I've got Marlon and Richard here.
Hi, everybody.
They are joining me here. We'll go into them in a little bit of a second. I'm just gonna quickly run you guys through a couple of things. So just so that you know, if I'm looking down here, the entire stream is actually happening here. So I'm not being rude. Right here, I'm literally checking the feed. Right there, I'm checking everything that we need to go through, and I'm checking all the questions and everything. So let me just take you through a bunch of stuff. So Black Friday deals, I'm not really gonna go through them much here, but what we will be covering in these live streams is the gear that is on Black Friday deals. And that's what we will basically be focusing on. But the Black Friday deals themselves, you need to go check with the specific retailers. But just to give you an idea, you can save up to 12,500 Rand on G Master Glass. And then obviously all the bodies except for the A7C and the A7S3 because they're currently already on promotion because of the pre-order. So those are the only models that are actually not on Black Friday currently. Then we also have this cool thing. So if you go to the Alpha Universe, it's Alpha Universe-MEA, and you go to events and you register for these events, for these Black Friday events. That means you stand a chance to win a 2,000 Rand voucher that you can spend on Sony product. So we'll do the raffle draw on Thursday and also on Friday, so stay tuned for those. And then go ahead and register. You can also share the stream with everyone so that they have the same chance of it. And then the last thing is this entire thing, we are allowing questions coming in. We'll handle the questions with Richard and Marlon. So I'll read the questions, I'll throw them at Richard and Marlon. So if you want someone specific answering your questions, that can be on Facebook, that can be on YouTube, or on the Alpha Universe if you're on the Alpha Universe currently watching. I'll be dedicating them to Marlon and Richard. So right now I'm gonna give over to Richard and Marlon. They're gonna take away this entire thing, and then we'll just see how it goes. Cool, go for it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marlon.
What's up, guys? I'm Richard, and really stoked to be here with you guys. Thanks for the introduction, Herman. I think it's going to be a great night. We're going to take you through what's in our bags and how we as wildlife photographers like to pack. And the first thing I like to pack is an A9 II. Cameras are very important to me, and the A9 II being the pinnacle is just an incredible camera. The way it changed and everything is brilliant, but we're going to take you through some images. So I'm going to hand over to Marlon. Marlon, tell me what you like about this camera.
Absolutely, Richard. I think it's one of the most important things is what you pack in your bag as a wildlife photographer. And absolutely one of the first things we consider, one of the first things we reach for is our main or our prime camera body, which in this case is the Sony A9 Mark II. And it is a phenomenal camera, and it's one that has grown on me like no other camera has, and for very good reason. And we'll jump straight into it. If you look at this first photograph that I'll share with you and just talk about this photograph and what the A9 has been able to do is, I took this last week at a place called Zamanga here in South Africa, an incredible hide experience, perfectly suited to the A9 II because you need a camera able to shoot in low light, get away with high ISOs, have very sharp autofocus, and exactly what this image shows in details here. You can see this is an African jacana. It stuck its head underwater. In other words, this moment of lifting its head happens in a split second, and it picks its head up out of the water, and the A9 II tracks it perfectly with incredible detail. And couple that with the 400 f2.8, the lens which this image was taken with, you end up with an amazing image. Richard, for yourself?
Dude, I am in love with this camera because of dynamic range, and as your image showed, it is so crisp and clear in terms of its quality. But dynamic range, as a wildlife photographer, we're always shooting in strange lighting conditions. In the middle of the day when it's hot and everything's lying flat. It's at dusk and dawn that things are really happening. And in this image you can see how these cheetah are caught at Mashatu in the dipping light as the sun was setting. And it's very difficult. Our eye sees it perfectly, but as soon as we lift the camera, it becomes tough. Now, with the ability to look through the electronic viewfinder and see my histogram, I can then plan my shot out, expose it correctly. The animals were a little underexposed, but in post be able to bring that back because there's so much dynamic range, there's so much detail in that whole image that I can balance that out like that. So Marlon, what's your next image that you're going to chat about?
Richard, for me, the game changer with the Sony A9 Mark II, what really sets it apart is the fact that it can track the animal's eyes for me. I'll look at this photograph. This is a jaguar in the Pantanal in Brazil. And what truly stands out for me in this is the image quality and everything else, but the fact that it tracks the eyes unwaveringly, even with possible obstructions in front of the cat, behind the cat, even with excessive movement. The fact that my cat or whichever subject I'm photographing, the eyes are always sharp, not only makes sure that I have a great image, it also allows me to focus on things like composition, what my settings are, exposure, because traditionally you're so focused on getting your focus point aligned to the head or the eye of the animal that you can't spend as much time on the other important features of that photograph. So this frees you up, and it's deadly accurate. It doesn't let you down. It really allows you to focus on other things while the camera makes sure that the eyes of your subject is perfectly tracked, Richard.
Totally agree with you. Even in this image, one of the things that you have to remember is that composition. That being able to lock focus. Now the eyes of a rhino are pretty small, but it'll find the head then. And once you've locked focus, you can then recompose. And then I love the fact that I can shoot at 20 frames a second. 20 frames a second means that I'm not missing a moment. And I'm also shooting without lossless. There's no blackout. So I can see the action all the time. It's locked on. It's refocusing 60 times a second. So between each photo at 20 frames, it's refocusing 3 times. So you're getting the most accurate thing. And that allows me to choose the exact image that I want to portray this moment, which was a rhino that was trying to mate with another rhino, sun behind, beautiful dust, and it had just fallen off after trying to mount on it. But obviously within this, the A9 II is all about speed, but a perfect companion camera is the A7R4. And you don't want to miss what we're going to say here, but I'm going to give it to Herman because he's going to give a little update quickly, and then we'll hand it over to Marlon.
Okay, so for those of you that just checked in, I just want to let you know we're speaking here today with Richard and Marlon, wildlife photographers, professional, and we're talking specifically about gear and some things that they've shot, and it's all the gear that's specifically on the Black Friday deals. So just to update you, pretty much everything is on Black Friday deals except for the A7C and the A7S III because they're already on promotion, but you can check with your retailer. And then also to let you know, this is a Q&A session also, so you can drop your comments on YouTube, on Facebook, and also on the Alpha Universe. And I'll be checking them right here, and then I'll hand them over to Richard and Marlon. So I'm going to head on back over to them.
So, Herman, speaking about comments and questions, one of the most common comments or questions that I tend to get is, which one do we choose? Do we go for the A7R4 or do we do the A9 Mark II? Which camera is best suited? And the beautiful thing is, if you can, you should not even think about not having both. Both of those cameras will complement your photography. You have the A9 II, like Richard said, for autofocus and speed, and then you have the A7R4. Now, I've been using cameras for the last 12 years, and this next image will show an ordinary subject just made to look so beautiful and striking. The A7R4 has got image quality like I've not seen on any other camera, and it's not a matter of which one is better. The A9 II is fantastic for the purpose for which it has been built, and the A7R4 for image quality, dynamic range, and incredible image detail and quality there's no competition for that camera on the market. And this photograph here just shows that incredible detail, incredible image quality. And even the next shot, it's a kind of camera that you should have with you as a second camera, undoubtedly, because you can pair it with lenses, whereas the A9 II might be occupied on a telephoto lens for obvious reason. The A7R4 is free on images like this. This is an image that you require detail. It's not so much about the animal as what it is about the landscape and the environment around you. And it's a perfect companion for that, because you can shoot scenes like this tiger captured in Ranthambore, incredible landscape. You want to be able to zoom in and look at the temple in the back and the structures behind. It allows you to explore the scene. And the A7R4, with the detail and the image quality that it captures, is the perfect camera for that. Richard, for yourself, the next camera, which is something that not a lot of people considers as a wildlife camera, but you've had great experience in this.
Well, so the RX10, I through lockdown took one home with me, and I had obviously a lot of time to fiddle around. And what we decided to do was I did a bird photography workshop to try and figure out what this camera was all about. And we want to highlight this camera because of the fact that everyone looks at the bigger, more expensive, the A9 II, the A7R4, and they can be expensive. And this guy comes in at a different price level altogether. And what it does and what it delivers is incredible. From 24 millimeters at 2.8 to 600 f4. It is like having my entire camera bag wrapped up in one parcel. And you can see the quality on this rainbow lorikeet picture here. And it is just amazing. One little camera with everything all about it. So if you're not in the market for the bigger stuff, this is definitely something to think about. And on my last trip where I was doing guide training, it was definitely a favorite amongst a lot of people because of its ease of use and its ability and the ability of the photographers to be able to get around it. So, Herman, anything else you want to add?
Currently, no. We can proceed.
Fantastic. I think lenses is something that a lot of people question when it comes to the mirrorless world. And I can assure you that Sony will not let you down. It is another common question. Do they have enough lenses? Can I find what I have in my current setup in the Sony lens setup? Absolutely you can. We're going to go through a number of lenses that's perfectly suited and designed for wildlife photography. And starting with this lens here, the Sony 600 f4 G Master lens. I've been using the 400 f2.8 for the last 10 years or so, and the 600 as well in addition to that. And when I stepped up to the Sony 600 f4, not only did the weight of it blow me away, just about 3 kilograms for a 600mm lens. I mean, that's unbelievable, the lightest 600 in the world. And add to that the autofocus speed and the image quality and the bokeh and the edge-to-edge sharpness. It just doesn't stop, Richard. Look at this image of a tiger captured in Ranthambore. The throw of that bokeh, the focus on where it needs to be, the eyes and the head, and just a beautiful rendition of soft bokeh towards the rest of the frame. It is a lens unlike any other 600 in the world, and something that will complement your wildlife images like you won't believe.
And obviously, adding to that, if you're looking at longer lenses like that, we're talking birds. And again, the bokeh is beautiful, but its ability to focus really fast and to maintain things, these little bee eaters don't sit still for long. And when they sit on a branch, they're always flying off and coming back, and you're trying to get things. But finding the right background and being able to pull your subject out with the detail that you can in this. And on top of that, with these stabilizing elements that you can handle it at 3 kilograms. Even with my little skinny pins, I can handhold the thing. So it's a brilliant lens to use, and it gives you a different dynamic. Obviously, your smaller things become larger because we're now able to zoom.
Absolutely, and this image is another one that I took, try to get for you guys specifically for this event to showcase the sharpness of this lens and just how fast it reacts. Richard speaks about the speed of this lens. Couple that with the A9 II, it is an unbelievable combination. And I'm not lying when I tell you, I can't remember the last time I fluffed a photograph or made a mistake, because the autofocus system of the A9 II, the speed of the 600 f4 and the ability to capture shots like this, I mean, that is unbelievable detail. I can't explain how fast that happens. If you've ever watched a bird fishing, it is within the blink of an eye and it's over. So the fact that you add the frame rate of the A9 II, the autofocus and tracking speed of the 600 will give you images like this, Richard.
And then on top of that, the 600 is a great portrait lens, especially within wildlife. In the reserves that we get quite close to things, and you don't want to be too wide on certain stuff. So being able to get in, and this buffalo here was a big thing. The oxpecker busy whispering sweet nothings in his ear, but it's about that power and being able to get right in there, and the detail is just incredible. The sharpness of these lenses blew me away from day one. The moment I picked it up and shot for the first time with any of these G Master lenses was just an absolute mind blower. Harman, do you want to explain a bit more about the Black Friday deals again?
Yeah, so just before we actually go into the Black Friday deals, we have a question here. We've touched on some bird photography stuff. And I see a question here from Jeff, or actually two questions from Jeff. The one question is general setting guidelines for bird photography, and the other one is bird photography setting guidelines. So it's more or less the same thing. Can you guys maybe go ahead and comment on that?
I think it depends on the situation, but for the most part, we're talking shutter speed. I think in wildlife photography, we're talking shutter speed, and birds, because they flit so much, that would be my feeling, and making sure you have a little bit of depth of field to get everything in focus. What's your feeling on
Absolutely. So the most important, there's three, I mean, we're talking aperture, we're talking ISO, and shutter speed. And birds, typically, the closer you are, the telephoto lenses, you don't have a lot of room and depth of field to play with. So like Richard said, I think if you can hover around that f8 to f11 mark, just to ensure sharpness, at least most of the head and the body is sharp and in focus. You need shutter speed, and with shutter speed, if you set at 2,500 or 3,200 of a second, what automatically happens at f8, at f10, and a shutter speed of 3,200, you're going to have to pump your ISO. So don't be afraid of it. If you use something like the A9 II, the previous shot you just saw of the heron catching the fish, that was at an ISO in daylight of 3,200. It doesn't quite make sense, but it's the only way to achieve an aperture of f8 or f9. That shutter speed, you need to compensate with ISO, but the A9 II makes it easy because it handles noise beautifully, as you could have seen in that previous shot.
Exactly, and I think that's the biggest part you've got to realize, guys, is that ISO is almost a misnomer now at this point, where these cameras have got to, it doesn't make a difference anymore. It's all about the shot and getting the right settings. Your ISO, everything's so clear. So we're going to talk about the next lens, which is the 400 2.8. And Marlon, this image of yours is just awesome. I love the light.
Thank you. Richard, like, this is a special shot. It was, again, in Brazil, the Pantanal, and a toucan backlit by the sun. Now, if you look at that bill and beak of a toucan, I kept seeing this backlit scene, and trying to get it in this posture was not always that easy, and you had to pick the shot very well. It was with the A9 II and the 400 f2.8. And what I love about this is, it complements again to the A9 II, is the dynamic range. The fact that it balances the darks and this very well sunlit bill so well. And that's something a lot of photographers take for granted. Making sure dynamic range is in place, up to 15 stops, is very important and makes your editing so much easier. But the A9 II, the crispness, again, the autofocus, this bird threw that back so quickly. The bokeh of the 400, the sharpness of the 400 just makes these kind of photographs a pleasure to take.
Totally. And what I love is the low light ability. Being able to shoot with a 2.8, especially when you're in the jungle. So this was in Uganda, and you're following the chimps around. You've got this massive canopy over. It's a rainforest. They call it that because it rains a lot. But there's often cloud cover because of that, so very little light. This was shot at, I think, 250th of a second, handheld, with the 400 2.8. So you're dealing with incredible glass, and it gives that bokeh. It allows me to separate subject from background and foreground. I'm shooting through the leaves. This was one of very few opportunities that you will ever have to shoot a baby chimp. Marlon?
Absolutely. And Richard, just to add to bokeh and just that incredible depth of field, yet magnificent sharpness on the subject itself, if you look at this frame, this leopard, an important thing that not a lot of people notice, this late afternoon sunlight, the darks can be really dark, and the light part, the sunlit part, is very difficult to balance. But the 400 and the image quality achieved through the 400 made it easy. And look at the tail. It's often detail that's missed in the shot. If you look at the shadow part, the tail in the back, you still see spots. You still see detail in the tail. It's something not a lot of people notice, but the 400 retains both. Incredible image quality and highlights on the cat itself, but it doesn't lose the actual detail and light on the background. It's a magnificent lens, and a lens that I will always take and be confident to take wherever I go.
Totally. And I think just as a background on that is that we get this ability to also see what the photo is going to look like through the EVF. That electronic viewfinder gives us a real-time view of how your exposure is. So you're able to change that in camera while you're looking. That's a very big detailed part. Again, the ability of this lens, detail within this lens, and you see this leopard and the drop-off bokeh behind, it just allows the subject to pop. It makes everything the hero. You don't even have to work hard, and the speed of focus, if it moves, the eye autofocus, like Marlon was saying earlier, one of the eyes, whichever eye is closest, it will lock onto. So you're never lost, especially at 2.8, you don't want to be lost with the wrong eye in focus, because you will lose the image very quickly. So being able to have this sort of detail, this crispness, all in one neat, very light body, it is my favorite by far, and I use it a lot with a 1.4 teleconverter, which we'll talk about later, which gives me my 600 f4 at the same time. So I think we're going to move on now to a really amazing lens, the 200-600, which is a 5.6 through 6.3. And Marlon's used it a lot, so he's going to explain an image or two about this image, about this lens.
Absolutely. Guys, I know what a lot of you are thinking, that budget is an issue, and sometimes it is, like the reality is not many can afford to spend, upwards of $12,000 on a lens. We understand that. But Sony's got you covered. If you can't do that, the following two telephoto lenses, I was incredibly surprised by them. The 200-600 being one of them. For the price point that lens finds itself within, the build quality, the structure, the throw on the autofocus, how literally in one throw you can go from 200 to 600 mil. The image quality is just spot on with with the 200-600. Sony's done it right here. So it fits the budget, and it is an incredible lens to have. If you look at the shot like this, what you often miss out on the telephotos is the ability to capture the whole scene. And what it does here very easily is you can go from all the way 200 all the way to 600. So it becomes a great storytelling lens because you can capture more of the content. If I were on a 400 or a 600 here, perhaps I would have had only half of the interaction here. But being able to have that focal length, the image quality, the build structure of the 200-600, and that price point makes it a really good combination and a fantastic lens to have for wildlife photography. And it's light. It's a little bit longer than the 100-400. It's small, it's light, and in today's world, that's exactly what you need.
Exactly. Now onto the 100-400, and I chose an image here that would describe it in a different sense, because when I changed over, as Marlon was saying, not everyone has that money to change over. And as a professional photographer, we're always looking for the balance. So I didn't want to dive too far in. I did immediately once I picked everything up, but my first lens was the 100-400, and it blew my mind. One of the most amazing features is that it focuses at less than a meter. So this image was taken at f11 at less than a meter of this Darwin spider in Madagascar, and the detail in this thing just blew me away. Wildlife, it just brings everything to. And I never expected it. I've shot with a lot of the 8400s, the 100-400s from different brands, and there is no way that I ever got detail like this off of those lenses. This thing is absolutely spectacular. So, Herman, we're going to go back to you for a little rundown on Black Friday, please, and then we're going to chat about the 70-200.
Okay, so if you guys have only tuned in now, I just want to let you guys know we're doing a live stream here with Richard and with Marlon, and it's basically around the Black Friday deals that's happening. It's pushing all the deals that are on Black Friday currently. So just to give you an update, what that is it's like almost all the lenses, and it's also pretty much all the bodies. It's just excluding the A7C and the A7S III because they're currently already on promotion. But the rest of it you can check out with your retailer, and you'll see you can save up to 12,500 Rand on these equipment. So go have a look. And then also I want to let you know that if you register for these activities, that's on the Alpha Universe. So that's alphauniverse-mea.com, and you go to the events. You can register for these activities, and then you stand a chance to win another 2,000 Rand voucher, which is basically going to be in a raffle draw. We'll take it out on Thursday and also on Friday. So there's going to be two of them, two vouchers that we're giving away, and then you stand the chance of winning those. And then I also want to let you know this is also Q&A. So please, if you have questions, you can drop them to us. I'm busy checking here as we're doing this live. We are on Facebook, we're also on YouTube, and then we're on the Alpha Universe. So if you have questions, you want them to direct these questions to Richard or Marlon, please do so. And then I also wanted to let you know, let's go into that later. No, never mind. So I'll I'll go back to Richard and Marlon, and yeah, we'll take it from there. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Aaron. And yeah, absolutely. Please get your questions through to us. We're ready. We want to hear from you. Unless we're doing such a good job that you just don't have any questions to ask us, which we're going to assume if you don't ask.
Yes, exactly. So Marlon's going to discuss the 70-200, an amazing image you took last week.
Absolutely. So as you can see, what I try to do is use new imagery to show you, I'm not just referring to the same images that I always use, but a lot of the content sharing here is content that I took literally a few days ago. And this photograph of a mother and its calf was taken at 5,000 ISO with a 70-200. Now, if you're an existing wildlife photographer, I'm almost confident that you're going to have a 70-200 f2.8 in your bag. Now, Sony has one for you, and it's a beautiful lens. It's incredibly sharp. It's a little bit smaller than the traditional 70-200s, and the results are magnificent. This is a photograph I took a few days ago in a hide at ISO 5000, yet the image quality of that lens and what it produces and how well it works with both the A9 II and the A7R4 will leave you with a big smile on your face.
Exactly. And again, I go back to the gorillas because it's a tough environment to work in. Up in the rainforest, when you're walking around, not always is a big lens handy. And we get so close to these things, and my go-to lens is a 70-200. Besides that, when I'm sitting with my A9 II with the 400 fixed on it, I need a bit of room to play around with. So I'll automatically pick up that as a second body to be able to capture any wider stuff that I need. But this gorilla is a great example. You know, being able to get close to these things is spectacular, but being able to capture the detail and the essence of a situation, of this silverback lying down in the grass, is all due to that lens. That lens is so easy. I pick it up, my A9 II says, thank you, eye autofocus, goes straight onto his eye, and I can then compose and look at how the image looks and feel it out, and I can trust that that lens is going to give me the best images that I could possibly hope for.
Absolutely. And this next lens, guys, I believe as a wildlife photographer, you should keep experimenting. You should keep trying new things. And what I love about my mirrorless journey is, even to this day, I've been shooting with Sony since June 2019. And to this day, I'm rediscovering the autofocus system. I'm trying new lenses because it just behaves differently to my DSLRs. And it has really changed the world of wildlife photography for me. And a lens that I'm enjoying, absolutely enjoying, is the Sony 135 f1.8 G Master lens. Now, this is a very special lens. It is very fast and it's really sharp, incredibly sharp. And in addition to that, it's got 2 linear autofocus mechanisms in a very small lens. How they've done that is unreal, but the value they've given you in that lens. Now, you might think this is a great portrait lens or outdoor events lens or concert lens, or why wildlife? Well, look at this photograph. What I have in my mind to create with this lens is just beautiful portraits. Shooting animals up close, using the depth of field to my advantage, and creating just very moody, soulful images that just speaks to an audience, that looks great on a wall, images that just absolutely stop you and make you think about the shot. And having depth of field at your disposal, like you do in this lens, allows you to create. I can tell you and show you what you should see by throwing out the background or including it. So it's a beautiful lens for that. And even this next photograph, I'm not sure, no, there was only one, but that's what I wanted to say. It's just a beautiful lens to create. We create as wildlife photographers, and that's what that lens allows you to do.
And I think what Marlon is getting at is such a very valuable point for all photographers. Is we've put things in boxes. 135 is a portrait lens. This lens is for a landscape photographer. This lens is for this guy. It's about mixing things. The more you learn about different forms of photography, the more you can create different images, different things. And another lens that always comes with me is a 24-70. As a wildlife photographer, we are in spectacular landscapes. This was taken off a hot air balloon in Sossusvlei, overlooking the deserts and the dunes and everything. And you know, when you're in this situation, you want to capture space, and that lens just allows that. Plus, if I have an animal close by, I have that ability to go to 70 mils, create a portrait, move things around, and create the mood I need within those lenses. The next lens we're going to talk about is a 1635, and I know Marlon and I both love this lens.
Yeah.
So Marlon, tell me about this next image, because this was a cracker.
I had to include it here. I've shared it before, and some of you may have seen it, but it's the lens that you're not going to use all that often. I'll be honest with you, all right? So it's not going to be the telephoto lens. It's not going to be the 70-200. but it has to be in your bag. Either that or 2470. But I love the 1635 and it's always with me for this very specific reason. Had I not had it, it would have been impossible to capture this photograph at 16mm at f2.8. A leopard with the stars behind it, one shot, not a composite, not in camera double exposed, nothing like that. It's one photograph, just cleverly lit. But the 1635 and the quality that you can get from that lens is unreal. And you have to have it. You have to have a wide, whether it's a 2470, 1635. It's such a great complement to wildlife photography. And there will be a time, trust me, when you're going to reach for that wide and actually use it. Like this next photograph, a stunning shot, Richard.
Thanks, Marlon. So I decided to show a different side of it because I use the 1635 a lot for astro. And it's one of those lenses, again, I enjoy all forms of photography, and being able to shoot stars is great. But this gorilla was on its way to me, and one of the thought processes was to try and create something different. So how do you create something different? You either change your settings or change your perspective, and your perspective can be that wide. And what happened was I actually waited for this lady to come up, and as she started moving, I had my live view open, tilted my screen up so I could hold it right to the ground, let the eye autofocus do its thing, and open it up to 16mm, and it makes her feel big. It gives a very different perspective to everything and changes the world. So don't be shy of different lenses for different reasons. Herman, anything else from your side?
Yeah, sure. So yes, I haven't seen most of these photos. I don't know if you guys enjoy them, but I enjoy them so much. I just want to let you know we have some comments here, so I'm going to read them. So one on Facebook, Kino Kango. I have absolutely no idea what that means. If you do know, please let us know in the comments here. And then we have another one from Farid, which basically just says, we love Sony, and we also love you back. So that's great. And yeah, just if you have tuned in now, we're here with Richard and Marlon, and they're talking about a 9.2, A7R4 lenses, everything that's basically around wildlife and the Black Friday deals that we currently have going. So check in with your retailers. We have deals up to 12,500 Rand that you can save up on this gear. So yeah, if you have any questions on this gear, on these gears, please send it to Marlon and Richard. You can send it here on the Facebook, on the YouTube, and also on the Alpha Universe, and we'll direct them to them. Perfect.
And then we're going to go on to the last thing, which is the teleconverters, because this has been a misnomer from the beginning of my photographic career. That was always the cheapest option to get length, but you always lost image quality. There was never that real punch. It always got a bit soft and everything.
Also lost autofocus capabilities.
Completely.
Yeah.
And for me, it changed my world when I started using this. So this image was taken at a 400 with 1.4 times converter at night at 10,000 ISO. So again, we're talking this incredible image quality with amazing ability, and I never lost anything. It's dark, and we were talking about autofocus now, Marlon. Dark, that thing held on to its eye. I have Atmos footage, which we'll share on social media so that everyone can just see how amazing this thing is. But it locks onto the eye, and even with that converted, you get great image quality and great autofocus. Marlon, you also have this image.
Yeah, Richard, like you say, I think teleconverters has been especially the 2 times teleconverters, a bit of a controversial topic, because I certainly never owned or used one when I shot with DSLRs. It doesn't matter which DSLR I used. I always used the 1.4, and I used it fairly confidently. But the 2 times was always no for me. And when I moved over to Sony, I just had to give it a go. And I promise you, I've not lost autofocus capabilities, which is the most important thing, because, and you won't always notice it in good light, but when the light starts dropping or you have a tricky subject, you can see the lens struggling to maintain or to keep autofocus. Now with the Sony and the 2 times teleconverter, you keep your autofocus system, you keep edge-to-edge sharpness, which is a very important factor to consider. And very importantly, you also keep image quality, a very hardly noticeable reduction in image quality. And if you look at a photograph like this is the 600 f4 with a 2 times teleconverter. That's 1,200 millimeters on a leopard drinking. I was confident to use that setup on this cat, and I came up with a beautiful image, confidently shot with a 2 times teleconverter.
Totally, and I think that's where you guys have to realize it's not just with the converters. the 100-400, which isn't the fastest lens in the world, or the 200-600, which goes to 6.3. People go, that's a very slow lens. We have to now move things around. So you don't. The ISO on these cameras is so good. The low light capability is so good that you can shoot with all of these things at once. So we're going to go to some questions now, and we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you guys have seen, it's unbelievable images, unbelievable gear.
Okay, so we're basically going to jump into some questions. I have some questions that I'm also going to direct to them now. So just to get this Q&A started. And also something that we are focusing on also now is the hashtag Sony 5 Steps. And it's basically the idea of what makes Sony 5 steps ahead in the mirrorless game, in the wildlife game, specifically with regards to this this webinar that we have today. So I'm going to jump into some questions and then they go ahead and answer it as they want. So first question, what makes Sony mirrorless 5 steps ahead in the game, wildlife in general? What is your take on that?
Well, first of all, for me, the start was, the reason why I changed was weight. I was carrying too much gear, it weighed me down, it just wasn't working. The second thing, because I waited for another make that I was shooting with to come out with their mirrorless version, it was just nowhere near. Sony are so far ahead because they are 6 years ahead. That is the literal statement. Next thing is lenses. So I don't know, what's your feel, Marlon?
Exactly the same, Richard. I think for me, as I said earlier, I come from 12 years of professional camera equipment, so I wasn't prone to shooting with not the best gear. I was always exposed to the best gear possible at the time. And Sony came along and just absolutely blew me away. And for me, the most important thing with wildlife photography is being confident that when I shoot, I'm going to get a result. I don't take as many photos as what I used to. I'm focused on my guests. I'm also a safari guide, so I'm always, making sure my guests are getting the shot. But when I do pick up the camera and I shoot, it's usually a good moment, and I don't want to mess that up. So what I get in the A9 II is something built for professionals. If I pick it up and I use it, I'm going to get the result that I'm after. And that's because of incredibly accurate and fast autofocus. Not only in the A9 or the A7, but also in the lenses. The lenses and the cameras both are up for the task. And the fact that I have probably one of the biggest things for me is just the autofocus system. It's customizable. I find myself changing my autofocus mode based on what I'm seeing. Be it a smaller focus point, being the wide focus mode, I'm constantly adjusting my focus. And the fact that I have that, I'm not just stuck on one focus mode. I'm constantly using the best one for the task at hand, just plays right into my strength and allows me to capture the photographs that I do.
Totally. And I think what you're saying there gives us so much room. One of the things when you change over to a new brand, firstly, is everyone's worried about, but the buttons aren't the same and everything. Everything's customizable. And what I've found is it's a learning curve. So I don't mind changing settings and going, how does this work? It's actually been a joy. It's been refreshing because I'm not stuck in the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to create new stuff. I don't know, and even like composition, how that focus works with composition.
Yeah, all the way to the edges. That allows you to track to the edges, birds in flight. The focus points follow all the way left and right, and it just allows you to get the shot you do. So no doubt, I mean, just considering what we've spoken here, Sony 15, was it Sony 15 steps ahead or was it 5? Can't remember which one it was.
Crazy. Okay, so then another question. So you guys have done many trips, right? And if you could take one lens and one body, what would that kit look like?
Oh, I'm going to jump in because that 135, when we were chatting and I've seen your images, right in the beginning of my idea as a brand ambassador was to try different things. And the one lens I want to try is the 135, 1.8 with the gorillas. I think the portraitability of that lens, and coupled with something like the A7R4, so you get that real rich detail with this incredible lens with such deep depth and being able to pull things out, to push things back. I think that would be mine. What's yours?
It's such a tough one because they're all really good. But if I'm a massive fan of the 400 f2.8, and as you say, I love the 135. And if I have to choose one lens to take with me for what I'm getting, probably something like a 70-200. And I'll give you a little hack. If you use a camera like the A7R4 on the 70-200, inside of the camera, you have in-body camera crop. You can crop on the sensor APS-C to give you essentially a 1.5 times crop effect on the full frame sensor. And what's awesome about it then, on the 70 to 200, all of a sudden, at 27 million pixels, you get, I think, 110 to 350 mm lens. So you now add f2.8. So essentially, by cropping and using that function, you can manipulate the 70 to 200 to become not 200 f2.8, but 350 f2.8. And the best thing is if you were taking video with the crop sensor on, you still get the same frame rate, you still get 4K. And to me, that's such a great hack, and it's something I've been using quite a lot. So probably something like the 70-200, and then having the versatility of that A7R4, still 27 million pixels, and still the 4K video, which we all love.
Yummy.
Okay, so if you guys have only checked in now, I'm really sorry, you've missed a lot. So we're in the Q&A section now, but if you have some questions, drop them in the Facebook and on the YouTube, and also if you're on the Alpha Universe, drop them to us. We'll direct them to Marlon and Richard. So we have some questions now. I have some questions also, so I'm sharing them currently. So I have a next question. So lenses, it's quite a technical thing, and there's G Master and G, and there's this and that. There's so much. But is there one lens that stood out for you, one lens that exceeded your expectation in this Sony range?
I think for me, it's the lens that I've been most fond of. I'm familiar with all the other lenses. I'm familiar with the 400, the 600, but the lens I've truly enjoyed using in a wildlife setting is I know we've spoken about it a fair bit, but the 135 f1.8. I've shot my kids with it, I've shot my pets with it, I've taken it into a wildlife setting, into a landscape in both wildlife portraiture, and I have truly enjoyed the speed at which that lens focuses, the size. I love something, although I love technology and I like things are getting, I also love picking up a small lens and feeling the weight of it. And so when you pick up that 135, you know it's built for a task. And it's old school that you can change your aperture on the lens itself with a bit of a click run through it. And it's just a lovely lens, and a lens that I've truly grown fond of.
Yeah, I think mine is the 100-400. Firstly, because it was the first Sony lens that I shot through, and I didn't know where my expectations were when I got it, but the versatility of that lens blew my mind. From being able to zoom in close at 400, to go wide to 100 and capture an animal in situ, in its landscape, in its space, with unbelievable image quality. It literally blew my mind. I had been shooting with professional quality lenses before, the 200 400s, 400 2.8s, and the quality was better. I didn't know if I was doing something wrong before then. And then also to be able to shoot macro, be able to get close into something, and do it just blew me away.
We love Sony.
Just a little.
And right again, we love you back. Okay, so I have one more question here. Let me just go to it. So I want to make my first purchase on this Black Friday, call it Black November. If I had to buy a body or I had to buy a lens, I mean, of course you need the body to get the lens. So, but I don't want to spoil it. So if somebody's got a body already, they can get a lens. If they don't have a body yet, we can talk about bodies. But if I can only do one purchase, what would that purchase be?
Marlon, you go.
Yeah, thanks for selling me into that one. Thanks, Adam. I think if considering you're a Sony user and you want something new, I think you should, looking at the A9 Mark II, especially at the price that it's going at now, it's a steal. It literally is a fantastic opportunity to get the best wildlife camera in the world right now. Get that autofocus system, the new buttons, the build quality, the structure, the weather sealing, it's all in there. So you're buying one camera, it's an amazing deal and a great camera to have for at home, your kids, in the wild, any event. It's just a great versatile camera to use. That would be my one thing to go and grab.
So I'm totally with you. And I think...
Are you going to say a 1.4 teleconverter?
No. I'm actually going to go a completely different route, because I think there's a lot of people that are out there that might not be in that realm. And I would go with that RX10. The RX10 Mark IV is...
That's cheating, because that's technically a lens and a camera in one. But it's fine. You can go with that.
I'm jumping the gun here, but it's incredible. To have 24 mils 2.8 through 600 f4 in a body that's this big and weighs nothing. I think for a lot of people trying to test the waters, it allows you to still keep your bodies and everything, and maybe have a second body as that. But otherwise, anything else, the A92 is just a mind blower. It really is. It just
Absolutely.
takes it apart.
Perfect. Okay, cool, guys. So we don't have much questions. It seems like we're answering them all. So I'm going to just go ahead and explain everything to you. So tomorrow, again, at 7 o'clock, we're going to have another live streaming happening. So this time, it's going to be more geared towards filmmaking. So if you're a filmmaker, stay tuned for this one. Also, don't forget, if you register for these activities, that means you qualify for a raffle draw, which you might win one of two 2,000 Rand vouchers. And that's going to happen on Thursday and also on Friday. So stay tuned for those. And then also I wanted to let you know, all the Black Friday deals, check them with your retailers right now. Obviously, stock is flying off the shelves. So it's only until stocks last. So grab your stuff. There's savings up to 12,500 Rand on gear. So jump in there. And again, if you have questions about gear, if there's a make or break question that you have, please allocate them to these live streams. We'll answer them. And then also I wanted to let you know, thank you so much for tuning in here. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch these live streams. I just want to say thank you to also Marlon and Richard for answering these questions for us and taking us through the presentation. And then also, we will see you guys again tomorrow. So if there's anything else you guys want to share, now's the time.
Just want to say thanks to everyone who watched, guys. It's an amazing time. It's an exciting time for photography. It's time to wrap your head around things, and there's time now to get to know your cameras. So go out and buy them.
Yeah. And from my side, just to end, I know many of you think we have to say these things. The reality is we're both professional wildlife photographers. We're both safari guides. We pride ourselves in the work we put out, and we undertake these things on our own, regardless of being, whether it's a live for Sony or on our own feeds. We believe in the gear, we believe in the equipment, and it's allowed us to capture incredible imagery and moments over the last, many years for Richard and over the last year and a half for me. So I fully trust Sony, and it is without a doubt the future of wildlife photography.
That's perfect. So just so that you guys know, down here, it's like right here, you have the tags of both Richard and Marlon, and also Sony Alpha SA. So you're welcome to go follow the pages or go check it out or whatever it may be. If you make a purchase, you're welcome to also send us a picture. You can use the hashtag that we have. It's a Sony Alpha 5, no, it's Sony 5 Steps. So you can use that, you can tag us in it. And yeah, that's pretty much it from our side. So thank you so much for tuning in for this one, and we'll probably see you in the next one. Thanks guys.